Hi everyone, this is Karen Williams, the book mentor, and today I am delighted to be interviewing Azmina Jiwa, and she is the author of this book, Freedom to Be Me. So here's one I prepared earlier. Now, I've known Azmina for many, many years, and she attended some of my earlier events during my business career, and when she decided she needed to write her book a couple of years ago, she sought the help of my team and also myself. Now, her book, Freedom to Be Me, is for those who feel unhappy, exhausted, worthless, and they're on the bottom of their own to-do list. Now, Azmina knows what it's like to go through that, and she's been through her own journey of self-development and self-discovery to re-find her happiness and self-worth. So, Azmina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure, Karen. Thank you for inviting me.
So, tell us a bit more about your new book.
Yes, really exciting. Well, essentially, I would say it's a book on self-help. Intertwined with my story, which, as you said, my story of self-discovery, which is where I went through a lot of anxiety, lack of self-worth, feeling very down, very, very low, tearful every day. And this was just about the period when my menopause period was starting. Menopause phase in my life was starting. And I almost kind of felt, life just isn't worth living. And so I kind of felt, I've got to find some answers to this. It's just, and really, I'm not somebody who is keen on medication. I didn't want to, I went to the doctors and sought a little bit of help. But really, I felt deep inside that I needed to find a solution myself for this. And I used to get up in the morning, find my heart used to palpitate. And for that, I did need a bit of medication because I was just, really a bit fearful about this palpitation that goes on in your life, and you know that it's damaging other parts of your body. So I at my very lowest point, when I just kind of knelt down and just said, help, help, help. And then I started looking for workshops and books that would really, really help me. And I started attending workshops. And when I started to find some really nice workshops, like one was called Zest for Life, and then the kind of books like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And the lessons I learned, like changing your thought changes how you feel, taking responsibility for your life helps, helps you to have power in yourself to change, having a gratitude journal, all these kind of lessons that are in my book now that I found so useful at that time. And my life started changing. And I felt this need to really share with other people because I felt like, why am I finding out these things at my 40s? Why is it not readily available? And that's really led me to want to share my message. So I started with workshops and running, one-to-one sessions, doing some talks. And then I felt I want to spread this even wider. And a lot of people were asking me, when are you writing your book? Because in the workshop, my story used to resonate with a lot of people. And so I thought, I really want to do this. So really, that's how that journey of writing the book started, or wanting to write the book started. And that was my inspiration to just spread my message wide, because it helped me so much.
Fabulous. And I think, that many people who reach that moment of, being on their knees, like you've just explained, a lot of people just don't do their research and find something else. A lot of people stay there so much longer. So I'm glad that, you came out the other side and now you can inspire other people to do the same.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what I feel. Whenever somebody's talking to me about how they're feeling, my heart just goes out to them. I just want to tell them all this stuff that helped me.
Well, now you've got your book and it makes it easier, doesn't it?
And also in the book, I created a reflection page at the end of each chapter, which will help the reader to, do their own exercise.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Questions to reflect on. Thank you.
Fabulous. So I know it's taken you a couple of years to actually write the book. What would you say have been your biggest challenges on the journey of writing it and getting it out there?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, when I really started was about 5 years ago. When I just started writing, whatever was in my head, I just started writing it, putting it down on paper and then typed it out. And this got to about 4 chapters. And I didn't know what to do after that. I just got stuck. So I left it. And then I remember just going to one workshop that I think Hay House had organized. But again, it didn't really give me the tools to how to write. So I was just, just left it there, just wanting to write, but not knowing what to do. And then, as you mentioned, I came to one of your workshops and found out that you were helping people to write books, and then got in touch with you. And then, of course, we had that day. So I would say that was like my first challenge 5 years ago. Then during the writing period also, I think probably not really realizing my how I write at my best, I guess. So I'd chosen the route of writing, okay, I'll write 3 times a week because those are the days that I seem to have time, but somehow it wasn't always happening the way I wanted it to be. And then the self-critique would hit in. The self-critique which says, oh, you didn't do it again. And I think also what sabotages us is the fear.
Of course.
Again, the self-critique saying things like, oh, who are you to write and who is going to buy your book? And which I hear a lot of authors say they feel that as well. So a lot of that self-doubt, I think, also was kind of challenging. But of course, with your help and your team, it all kept me going steady, slow and steady. So I would say those were my biggest challenges, really, yes, the time and the critique.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things you did find is that you work best when you go on holiday to write, don't you? And I know your husband enjoys that as much as you do.
Exactly. He can sleep all the time and I can have a swim and come back and write.
Fabulous. So how did working with my team and I help you to get your book done, to go from those moments of self-doubt to actually having that book in your hand?
Well, I personally feel that I really would not have got that book out. I know that at every kind of stage of, okay, where you helped me tremendously was in the planning, where we spent the whole day. We worked out why am I writing, which obviously raises that motivation. And then I'm not a planner as such. I get, of course, a lot of things done in my life, but this required a different type of planning, which I hadn't done. So that was of tremendous value to me, and and that really got me going, having those chapters and where you guided me to, put them all down and put little points against each one and then tackle one at a time, which was really, really helpful. And then along the way, of course, I used to find the way I write was very much how I speak, which is a nice way of writing, I guess, but still there are some things which need to be explained a bit more. And then when Cheryl came in and helped me with the developmental process. And then when I came to the writing retreat, although I didn't write a lot on that retreat, but what was amazing was finding out, yes, how I do write at my best, working out those things. Found out that I actually have to have very solid deadlines for me to be motivated enough to write. So all those realizations, which I wouldn't have had if I was working on my own. So that was really amazing. And then for the editing and the book cover, I wouldn't have known where to go, really. So, for me, it was such smooth sailing when you just put me in touch with Sam. And with one call with Sam, we discussed the book cover, and she came up with amazing covers, which was so hard to choose from.
I know, and I love this design. It's always one of my favorites.
We talked about it, and you say you like it as well. Yeah. I thought, let's go for that one, because I was drawn to it too. But when you start asking everybody, then everybody has different views. You get a bit confused. And of course, with the editing process, with Louise, not knowing what things need referencing, how to reference, what permission you need. So all that was highlighted during the editing process. So really, for me, it's been extremely, extremely useful because I really wouldn't have known any of those things, and I would have just not bothered. In many stages, I would have just got stuck because I wouldn't have known where to go and how to look for it. So it was very, very valuable for me to
Yeah.
work with.
And you know how many lives you can change through your book. You know, people. You know, just before I press record, Azmina and I were talking about, you know, people who are requesting the book already, and you know, she had the book launch a few weeks ago, and you know, and it's great to actually hear those successes. It's, you know, I think in the early stages, you know, you just don't. You launch your book, you don't quite know what's going to happen next, but it's great when you get that, when you start to get that feedback of people going, "I love your book," or "It's amazing," or "It's helped me so much." You know, that's I think that's the best compliment, isn't it? To actually having your book out there.
That's right. Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I know it's early days, but what would you say have been your biggest successes so far, Azmina?
Yeah, I think one of the things, just as you say it, you know, I have people who are saying, "Oh, I'm already recommending your book." I have I think she's in the book as well. Somebody who was doing some counseling, and she came to one of my workshops, and she says she's already recommending it to her clients.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, so it's really good to hear that kind of feedback back. And of course, we had a lovely, successful book launch, and uh, all together just before the book launch and by the end of the book launch.
Oh, I've just lost you for a second.
And some of the money is going to charity, which also, you know, for me feels like a huge success. I just sent them a lovely check to help 70 children, to help to feed and educate 70 children in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels really good. I feel that's part of my success as well, helping other people in another way. So I've had an article in a Finnish magazine, which is just coming out for English people in Finland. I had an article in the newspaper, which was lovely. Felt really, you know, really nice to have people talk about it. And I think one of the business magazines like Biz Rock, there might be an article on there.
Yes.
Then I did a workshop in Germany where they specifically wanted to do it from what I've written in my book. So that was very, very nice. Yeah, there's another discussion interview I'm doing with an American author next week. So again, we're talking about one of the chapters in my book on self-acceptance. Mm-hmm. So specifically on acceptance. So really, yeah, these little things are coming through, which I feel are kind of my little successes so far.
Yeah, and it is those little successes. I know you already speak, you know, nationally and internationally as well, Azmina. So having the book as well is just that added bonus, isn't it? Added bonus for people to buy, to have off you, so they can take it to the next stage. If they see you speak for an hour and they're interested in what you have to say, which I know they are, you know, they've got the book to take away and do something with.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's, you know, that's what I feel. I want to spread it wide and do a lot more talks on the book, and hopefully hold workshops also in the future, which is another plan I have for.
Well, you do workshops already, don't you? But I know you're a Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway teacher, instructor, whatever the right word is. So actually having something under your own name, I think, just, you know, adds to that, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think that was also one of my reasons for obviously wanting to spread my message. But another reason for writing was it gives you that credibility, doesn't it? It just, yeah, people do look up to you as a little bit of an expert.
Absolutely, more than a little bit.
I know we want to play down that pride.
So I don't know how easy it is to answer this question, but what is the biggest impact so far that you think your book has made to you, your clients, your business?
Yeah, for me, of course, yeah, I think learning a lot about myself, you know, having to deal with another level of fear that came up, and challenging that fear, because I've been working on my fear, which was something that was at the beginning of my journey 20 years ago. And you think, oh, I've overcome my fears, but new levels of fear come up with anything new you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the book was another, like a big step to be out there, you know, opening yourself to the world and writing a bit about your story, your own life, was very, very frightening. So I would say, you know, that was something that was a huge learning point. So impact for me, yes, a huge learning point. Knowing how I work at my best, knowing that in future I want to write any books, that these are the points that will help me for that too. So that was a huge growth, and just knowing that already people are reading it, are finding it helpful, the comments I'm getting. So I feel, you know, the things that are there are already being useful to people who've read it already.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, and the greater impact will be for the future when I maybe hold my workshops and do more talks on the book.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to ask you, that what impact you want to make with this book.
Yeah, so I would like to start. I've already got a date identified for next year in March, where I want to start doing, at least hold my first trial workshop and take it from there and see whether it's one-day workshops or something that will run over a few weeks or both, whatever. So as many people I can impact in that way would be great. But I think for the future, these messages that I feel are not reaching children, the messages of, they're valuable, because I feel the kind of system we run sometimes in our schools with exams actually invites people to feel that they're more of a failure than, valuable. So I feel that I would really love these messages to go into schools at some point in my life. And also people maybe who go to surgeries, doctor's surgeries, where they're feeling low and down. And like when I went, I was offered some medication, and go back and see. And I was asked a few questions about what's going on in my life. But really, nothing else was recommended that was outside medicine.
Of course.
So I feel it would be nice, if there is some other things like these, which are recommended by doctors. So if at some point in my plan is to maybe do something where I can talk to groups of doctors or, work with my local surgery, maybe do some pilot programs with a local surgery and build up some case studies maybe. So something to take this further, to just so that people don't go through what I feel I went through. And young children who are nowadays going through a lot of depression and anxiety. And I think one of the reasons, there was a program on television which identified one of the reasons was them not feeling good enough about themselves when they were interviewed. So I feel it's really, I think these tools are really for all of us to use for happiness, fulfillment, and peace. So.
Absolutely. Well, it does what it says on the tin. I know at your book launch you had probably about 70 people in the room, including your local MP, and I know you sent him on a mission now to to do his best to help get this out there to more people. And I do see an Azmina crusade coming on to actually really get this out there, because there's some really important things that you've shared in this book about putting yourself first, about how to cope with fears and all of those stuff that's so important. And as you say, I think I know from my own experience, and we have fears and then we get over that one fear, and then the more we grow, the more fears we have, as you've said. And I think it's just knowing, I suppose, our comfort zone stretches so much, and then suddenly I've got to take the next step.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But I guess at the basis of knowing that we all have fears, and that there are ways of overcoming them and and we know that when we overcome this comfort, what we call our comfort zone, when we step over it, and you've done so many out of your comfort zone,
just a few
that you talk about, that it's so exhilarating, isn't it? And it's so freeing. And of course, writing the book was one huge coming out of my comfort zone as well, because when I got stuck, I could have just stayed there and said, oh, I can't write, or it's not working out, or whatever. But just keep going, and when you do just go through that fear, and the other side is just amazing. Feels exhilarating and freeing.
Brilliant. Well, that's a really great piece of advice. Have you got any other pieces of advice that you would give to other people who are thinking about writing a book, or maybe they've already started and they're feeling a bit stuck?
I would say unless you're a really, really good planner, I would feel that that's the beginning to really have a good plan for the book. So if it's somebody who's like me, then of course I think seek help of an expert in planning the book and making little notes, and knowing finding out how do you work at your best, so that you don't put too much stress and pressure on yourself, which I felt I did for a little while before I knew. And then when I realized, then taking time off and just going away to write, Well, it was amazing. And I remember at the very last kind of days when I had a deadline, I actually just booked into a local hotel for 3 days, for a couple of nights, worked there for 3 days, and just came home again, because I knew that that was my way of motivating myself. If I stayed home, I wasn't doing it. So it's finding out what is your way of writing, what motivates you to keep going. And be aware of your inner critic. It does come up. I think with most people I've heard that it comes up. So be aware that that will be there. But again, it's just about taming it, or changing your thoughts about it, and keep going. Just take little baby steps, and yes, you might get stuck, but just keep taking little baby steps and keep going. And with me, as you said, it was 2 years. It was very slow and steady, but that's okay.
Well, you got it at the end of it, and that's the most important thing, isn't it?
The book was out there, and it's been great. It's been great working with with the whole team.
Fab. So have you got another book that's percolating away, or not yet?
There's another talk that I do, which is called Keys to Happiness. And there's so many points in there that already my mind is thinking, well, that could actually be another book. Maybe, with a lot of, maybe not so much of my, some of them can be my story, how I've used them.
Yeah.
But a lot of them is backed by science as well. So maybe make it one of those kind of books. So who knows? But this time it's taking myself off to a retreat, or, join you on a retreat, or go off.
Sure, you're very welcome to join us again in September in Spain.
Right, and start. So that is at the back of my mind. So I think having written one book and having all this help and the confidence to do it, it has inspired me to maybe put down some other thoughts I have.
Brilliant. I look forward that's news to me, so I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. So Azmina, how can people get hold of Freedom to Be Me, and how can they get in touch with you if they're interested in finding out more about your workshops or even your mission?
Yeah, so I think the book is available on Amazon, Freedom to Be Me, Kindle version as well as the paperback, and my website. It's Azmina, which is AZMINA JIWA, azminajiwa.com. And I'll be putting information about my workshops there. And the book is also available from the website. And any other things I can help people with, I guess, the website will probably be the best place to contact me from.
Fabulous. Well, I love your book, and I've really enjoyed working with you, Azmina, over the last couple of years, and I do recommend it for anyone who's wants to put themselves first. I recommend your book, and because I think we can all put ourselves on the back burner every now and then, don't we? And with everything else going on in our lives, the busier it becomes. So yeah, it's a brilliant book, and I recommend people buy it.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's been great working with you too.
Brilliant. And thank you for joining me today. Thanks, Azmina.
Thank you.